Spider-Verse Web Swing was the theme for August's monthly animation challenge, and everybody seemed super excited because we had way more entries than ever before. Obviously, people are still a fan of Spider-Verse, so I'm going to go all out in turn. We're going to look at all of the animations that were submitted. I'm going to give you some overall notes for all of them, and then I'm going to go dive deeper into 2 of the shots. So there's going to be a ton of animation tips that I think you'll find super helpful if you're into animating Spider-Verse shots or anything else in the near future. All right, so let's jump right in. Alright, so I'm going to take a quick look at all the animations, give some overall feedback, and we're going to dive deeper into 2 of these animations. I want to go all out for you guys because you went all out this month with the Spider-Verse challenge, so let's do this. Adam shot here. I like the idea of having him come and face camera and surprise us like this, and I like the simplicity of his, it's like 1 swing, 2 swing, so I like that. What I don't buy is the direction change. It feels a bit linear and forced. There's also a huge lack of weight and drag on him. So going forward, I would continue to work on that stuff, Adam. Ari. This is pretty cool, even though, we're blocking plus, like stepped or just blocking. I like that it's simple, but it's still dynamic. Like we got a little bit of a camera move here. He's coming from off screen far away and then lands close to us. And I like that you gave thought into the settle here, that there's some up and down in those hips after he lands and recovery. Also cool to have the spidey sense tingling in this moment. I really wish there was a lot more weight and hang time in this drop, though. That would be huge. So I would continue to work on that stuff as you do challenges like this. Emanol. Hopefully I said that right. Emanol Peso. Let's check this out. Okay, cool. I think there's a lot going on here. It's like super dynamic, super involved, a lot of actions. Going forward, I'd probably simplify this, so don't do such an epic shot like this. There's a lot of moments where you need a lot of drag and extra weight in the body, and direction change or the direction of the body with where he's facing. Try to make them more line up. The body's really facing more straight on, and he's kind of coming at this angle. So I would try to make all that work. The biggest problem for me is this camera cut. It's very jarring. It feels like we were moving at a really big, fast pace, and then bam, we get hit with the brakes. There's like a car collision right here because the camera still stops moving. It's very jarring to the eye with this cut, not only compositionally, but with that stop. And I'm really wondering why there needs to be a cut. If the camera's able to follow him through all of this action, and then up into the swing. Let's just have the camera continue following him all the way, like, you know, with this move included down to the end. Simplify that. And simplify your shots going forward so you can really hone on those mechanics and make them much stronger. Rich here did this, this Spider-Man web shot, and I like that you just had like one move and it was like a web shot, pull up into the air and land. So it's fairly simple. I think you're getting into trouble with the camera right now. I think it's confusing you. It's very jarring to the eye to have him, the way that his spacing, how he's moving so far up into frame, and then he's coming back down into frame. I think that's the camera move is really getting in your way there. So going forward, I would just kill the camera for now. And I think to body mechanics wise, there's a lot of floatiness in terms of the hip up and down. Doesn't feel heavy. And then the limbs. The limbs are like coming out and in an even manner where they're drifty. And the same deal with how it comes forward to camera and how it moves, you know, how it drags from behind and comes forward. So it's floaty that way as well, and you're getting a lot of tweening. So with all the other shots that you've seen in this challenge, and you've seen how they've break things down to be even simpler, I might just have, like, you know, a shot like Spider-Man dropping and landing, and that's what you work on, and you're working on that weight for that drop to make him feel like he's heavy, and you're working on that overlap with the spine, and you're working on getting rid of the twinning and the drag and the limbs. So I would recommend you just do even simpler shots going forward. So it's like just Spider-Man dropping and he hits a cool pose, and maybe it's even Spider-Man that's down here and he's like, you know how he gets close to the floor and he's got like his hand down here and another one over here, and this leg might be out a little bit and he's like looking up at you. Could be like a cool pose like that. He just like drops in, hits the ground, hits that pose, and that's what you're working on with a still camera. I would really recommend that going forward, Rich. I think that's how you're going to learn the most. But great job jumping into this challenge and giving it a shot anyway. Nicholas here did this one, and it's pretty cool. I like the different rhythm of like swing, jump, or like land and run, and then go like a sideways jump into this like almost like Cirque du Soleil, like web swing onto the light pole. He's really dragging back there without his hips going up, so I think you're overdoing it. Like, you're just dragging back too early with the upper spine, and it would have been nicer for him to kind of like fall into the run rather than like pause and then go. Overall, the weight feels off for a lot of these, and the direction change is very sudden. He's facing forward, and all of a sudden he just goes to the left. The whole anticipation, probably even the squash pose here leading into it, would start to push him, like he would start to angle his body that way to move that direction. And especially this arc here going up bugs me, because it doesn't feel like it arcs and then comes down. It feels like it arcs, you know, it's not going from screen left to screen right. It's going up, stopping, and then kind of coming back. It's really hard to do those direction changes midair without having like a web shot and then a pull to change that direction. So you can feel that right through here. How he kind of like spins in place and then shoots back this way. Also would have benefited to do what like Ari did with that settle and have some recovery here. Some up and down, some overlap on that body as he settles into it. Love the simplicity of this. This is, you know, a great mechanical exercise to just get better with weight and overlap and all that stuff. I'm a bit confused why Spider-Man would be sitting on a bench and then front flip back onto sitting on the bench. But it's a good exercise. Right now for me, this is super floaty, and that's all coming down to the bouncing ball really here first, before worrying about the overlap, the way that he just kind of floats into place here. So practice that, zero in on that going forward with all your animations. Nick here did this Gwen animation, and I was super happy to see a Gwen animation because not only is she a different character, which makes it interesting, but she also moves differently in the movie than all the other characters. She has like this ballet grace, this gymnast grace to all of her moves, so it makes it a lot more interesting to watch as it's something different style, right? I think the scale of this is really massive. It feels like we're in the biggest building ever to exist, and she's like this super tiny speck, and it's weird to have like a realistic background there. I probably wouldn't have made it this like huge of a scale and this far away. I probably, if I were you, because I see like we're not gaining that much entertainment from this run. There's not that much dynamic. There's not that much that's very dynamic about this. And I see you struggling with a lot of weight and directional change too. There's a lot of like poses that are just kind of drifting from one pose into the next. So I think it would have been better for you to just chop this shot in half. Maybe start it from here or start it here, so you don't even need that much of a camera move. And you just focus on this super graceful Gwen stuff, which is cool. And just, you know, polish the hell out of this to push everything you know about overlap and drag and weight and everything into these poses, into these frames rather. I love too that you looked at Spider-Verse, because this is a direct pose from the movie, from the posing challenge too that we did. I can't remember if you were there for that, but this is straight out of the posing challenge we did for Spider-Man. So it's cool to see you checking out that reference. The pose is a little bit different in the movie. There's a little bit more of a tilt to the hips. They're a little bit positioned better. This leg isn't as broken as it is here. But yeah, it's cool that you're looking at the reference. Keep that up. Keep looking for that weight and the way that they pose things to be a little bit better. And you will get better. The other really big thing that stands out to me with this is this push off. She really feels like she's going this direction and it's going to arc this way, and you end up arcing for a little bit, and then you like shoot up, and then you come back down. So you see how it just goes like vertical, and then you start to go a bit like translating screen right. That's part of probably the camera move getting in the way. Then you come down, right? So that's the big stuff I see there, Nick. Keep your eyes out for that in the future, and keep it up. Christian here is a augmented animator student, so super glad that you're making time to do the Spider-Verse challenge as well as the animation exercises that I give you in augmented animator. And I really love the simplicity of this. This is a fun exercise, even if you're only in blocking plus, to keep practicing those skills that you're learning right now, and pushing yourself. The anticipation that you thought about here to go into this spin and the arc, I think is working well, and I'm glad that I see you thinking that through and really making those physics believable, to go into this, this squash pose that you have. And I love the idea of him pulling two web shots, and then like he's gonna yank on them to pull himself forward. It feels like it's the setup for something really strong. He's got this bunch of hang time for us to read that moment. What's really killing me that we're missing is to go from this squash pose, where you could also be tightening in more and more and bringing those legs up higher and higher in here just before he releases, and go into a stretch. So as he shoots out, you know, you can really have those hips dart forward, those legs drag behind. His head's really forward, his spine's curled the opposite way. Instead of this, it's that, and then the arms are straight back. That would have added so much oomph to this to make it stronger than just kind of staying in the squash the whole time. That shape change is huge, and then it makes getting into this pose more interesting because you're going from squash stretched back to like a semi-squash, which is the cool Spider-Man pose we're like holding to look at. Andrian here made this one, and this for me is my favorite shot in terms of simplicity and entertainment altogether. I think you really thought outside the box here to have his pants rip. You didn't go that crazy with him doing a bunch of flips and running around buildings and, you know, tons of parkour. So you kept it simple, and then it's really funny. The only thing we're really missing here is getting those stronger mechanics to make it even more believable and powerful, and maybe a bit more dynamic camera. Like the spin is very even all the way around. Doesn't feel like it's like fast, slow into the hang time, and then fast again. Doesn't feel like the speed changes anywhere there. And then when you get into these moments where we're obviously needing to pay attention to this, the pose completely freezes. Where we need more of a moving hold there. We need, you know, the legs and the arms to continue as if his pull, his pull on that web swing is gonna work. And he hasn't really registered that this has happened yet. It's gonna dawn on him later. And we have that moment here to really make sure we don't miss it, for him to realize it. And you have all this change in the head, a little bit of change in the arms, big change in this foot. I would have done that to everything. And I would have done it to this foot, would have added some up and down here with the hips to make that, you know, that full shocked reaction happen. And then I wouldn't have had him be like drifty through here. I would have had my poses held a lot tighter, and then go out of them with a lot more extreme spacing. Like going into even this, it's not bad. It's again a little even, and the big thing for me is this fall. We can make this feel a lot more dramatic just by changing the spacing on one thing. So if you did nothing else but to change the spacing on this hip, because right now it's pretty even through there, I would have just been like hold really tightly towards the top, then drop super fast, and we'll feel that acceleration, that terror for him, that he's now falling towards the earth, towards the ground. But keep it up, Andrian. It's good to see you making such an entertaining shot and such simplicity. Probably you didn't have that much time to do it as you're freelancing, and hopefully we see more. So this shot by Irfan is probably my favorite overall because it's got a little bit of everything. You've got some of the Spider-Verse look and style of it. You've got and you've got some dynamic moves with some decent mechanics in here. The rendering is doing a lot to make this, you know, to add to this wow factor for you and make your animation look super cool. But at the end of the day, if you sent this to a studio and a supervisor or a lead was looking at this, they would still be able to look at your animation separate from the render. Like they would be able to spot what's missing in your animation with all this stuff going on. Whereas students or more inexperienced animators might not catch that stuff. So I want to try to point some of that stuff out for you, and it makes me really happy that you sent over the play blast. So I'm going to dive deeper into this one and the next one, and we're just going to take it section by section here because I think there's a lot to share. So even this opening pose, okay, you've got a lot of twinning throughout your animation where each limb is the same and they pick up at the same time and they plan at the same time. I'd like to break all that stuff up, and really the first place I start there is maybe just by tilting. You could do it either way. You could tilt the chest like this, and then you're favoring one arm over the other. This arm starts to squash more. This one starts to reach a little bit, and it doesn't have to be that far up. My drawings are a bit exaggerated. And you do the same with the hip, and then one leg ends up being a bit higher up than the other. And it makes it more dynamic, and that sets you up for the anticipation down because it gives you somewhere to go. So you go from like that angle to the reverse, right? And now because of the shape change, we're really feeling that squash, and it feels more organic. And you flip the hip, right? And then you get this stretch and squash here happening, which is opposite. And that guides you on which arm should really pick up first. So this really sets you up for when you go into the stretch. So in the stretch, since you're going to be basically pushing down here as you go up, you're probably going to lift that side a little quicker. And then here you can have this arm still down, touching on the ground, and this one can be up already, higher. And now your arms are separated. They're not coming off the ground at the same time, and it feels a lot more dynamic, right? Same deal with the legs. You're also getting a bit of penetration through the wall here, which tells me that your legs aren't pinned in place with an IK with keyframes there. There's probably just Maya's just in betweening that for you, and it's drifting those legs forward, which is not something you want to have. You want to have that cleaned up. Something else you can do is, let's just take a look at the hip spacing real quick. So I probably wouldn't have cushioned, if I wanted this to explode out into the jump a lot more powerfully, I wouldn't have cushioned the hip that much to come out of that jump, right? It's very soft through there. So you just see that spacing of that hip kind of evenly coming out. I might have gone from this squash position and jumped right into this, right? And then tweaked my overlap and drag through the body to make that work as much as I can, probably dragging the head back a lot more to try to explode into that faster, to create more acceleration. And the last bit to this is you also notice when I drew over the hip there, your character is basically jumping and trying to go this way, but with your camera move, it's making it feel like your character goes backwards and then comes forwards, right? So it's really killing his forward progress. It doesn't feel like he's jumping with power that way either, because it's like he's going backwards. And that's where I would probably simplify the camera. I wouldn't have it move so much and affect your animation, like the way your spacing and your arcs are being handled. So what I might do is have the camera more still in this moment, and it could just follow him down a little bit when he anticipates. And if anything, maybe when it goes down, maybe you have the hip go down and to the left a little bit so you can come up and to the right. So you kind of create some nice loop there, or figure eight. And the camera can follow that as well. So it follows him down and it kind of goes to the left and then follows him going screen right. That way he always feels like he's making progress towards the actual direction he's heading. And that's a common challenge that a lot of people have when you're moving cameras, and especially with Spider-Verse stuff, if you animate on twos. So kind of going into, I like seeing that you worked on this dive. It makes me think that you are looking at the Spider-Verse movie in detail, because it feels like a shot straight from the movie to have him dive like this. And this moment does too. It's full of personality. What bothers me about this moment though is that you're doing two actions at once. I think you're doing some kind of salute, if that's what you're going for, and then, you know, you're doing this web shot. And the salute, let's talk about that first. The salute, it looks like it's going through his face. I would really make sure, if it's like the British salute, that it's like above his eyebrow, or, you know, American style would be more if we see like the side of his hand. I would also make it less floaty, because right now it kind of comes in evenly and drifts, as opposed to snapping there and then snapping out, which makes it feel very intentional and gives it power. The overlap that you're creating here, as you do this, you're kind of rotating the body in Z away. The problem is it's all coming over at one time, so you're getting a wall smack. There's no drag on that, right? There's no particular part of that leading. So you need some drag in there. And you need it probably to come back a little and settle. So it needs to kind of go over, hit the extreme, and rock back a bit. And then you doing the web shoot at the exact same time. Oh, before I forget to, you're doing this peace sign thing, which I think kills the idea that it's a salute. So I would do, you know, maybe he just kind of curls his fist in and then goes peace. Or you do the salute and then... And I would really try to break these actions up, because they're happening just about the same time. Like, you finish the salute and you're like web shot. The shooting the web out of the hand, it's pretty much all happening in the hand and the forearm. You really want to include the whole arm there, and you want to include the body. And most importantly, you want to make it just like this arm. You want to make it snappier, so that it doesn't have that floaty even feeling. And you need that anticipation in there for us to really read it. So it's like, if his hand is going to be here, kind of like semi drifting through the air, if his hand's going to be here, a great way to do it might be to have that hand go back and straighten out a little bit as an antic, and then it shoots. So it's like whoosh, a little bit of a flick there. Or you could just hold, curl the hand in a little bit more, and then shoot it out straight. You could do it that way too, and have this arm come out a bit so it's a bit straighter. So you go from like having the hand here and having it curl in extra to prepare for that web shot flick, and then you go into that straight, and you have somewhere to go so you can pull on that too, which would be nice because you already got the squash shape. So that would be really huge for you. In terms of putting the rest of the body in with that arm, you'd want that, if you're gonna have the curl in here with this arm, you would probably twist the chest probably towards that direction, so that you can open up into your web shot this way. So you're kind of shooting screen right, which is where you're gonna go anyway. That way that starts to involve the body and gives you some rotate Z, some rotate Y in there, some change in the spine. And what else? What else can we do? So you have legs here. You can incorporate them too. You could have, what you can do to help the anticipation is you could have, during this curl in, you could have, or just before it, you could have this foot come forward, like it comes closer to, you know, his face, squashing in, right? And this one can push out a little bit. You might have a little bit in more than it is right now, so that you have somewhere to go. And then you push out into more of a straight. And after this, you're going to do the opposite. So with this leg being squashed in, you're going to kick it out. So it'll straighten out more, maybe even more than you have here. And this one will curl in. And I would do that. I would have that happen pretty much right around here. So I drew that on the wrong frame. right? So this one's kicked out around there. And then what you've done is, since he's flying through the air, you've done kind of like a bicycle kick since those legs are free, and the kick has been like an antic up and out to go with the shot. And now your legs are involved. Every part of the body is involved. It will give you a little bit of reason to tilt the hips as well because those legs are active. And this whole section feels a lot more amazing because of that. The body being involved, a lot more powerful. Here in this section, my main thing is direction with the body that matches his path. So he's kind of flat on here, which is fine. And then he's going to pull himself this way. And he's going to pull himself up and into a high point, which is all the way here, right? So this is where you want to go. And my whole thing is changing it so that when he pulls here, I'm expecting the body to lead more, there to be some lead and follow. The whole body just kind of goes together. So I'm expecting like the hips to be going out first, and then the spine to be dragging behind. So let's see, you're in more of this curled position, right, with the head there. So I'm expecting something like the hips being out and you're dragging the head behind with the spine a bit, because I don't feel any drag right now. I don't feel the force in the body that's being basically exacted upon it when he yanks this piece of web. So I would do that, and I would also angle the body so that he starts to really, the whole body starts to face this direction, right? So it's probably something like what I drew. Maybe it's a little bit more turned away from us, like more straight. And then through here, I'd expect the same thing. So as he's coming across, I'd expect him to start to go up and to really angle. Maybe he's not there yet, not at this frame. Let me back that up. And then he starts to really go vertical through here. And then really higher. And he can start to flatten out and swing into this position here. So it's like his head is back the whole time, and he's really slingshotting himself into a stretch with those legs kicked out. Gravity starts to take hold, and he starts to rotate and drop into place here. I'm drawing that way bigger than it should be for how far away he is. But that's the general idea. That's the path of action. I want to see that body kind of following those rough lines through there. And that changes the whole feeling of this to feel, you know, full of force. Also pose-wise, as you're doing this kind of vertical thing, you could still have him sideways, and it would be great to take him from, you know, this curled in arm is cool. Have that curled in arm even closer, maybe. And this one's just using green is a better idea. You have this one stretched out, so you have somewhere for it to go here, and then here you're pulling that arm back in instead. Having that body more vertical than what I'm drawing here would work. And then, because right now, like, just his body's like sideways, but he's going up and down. So this would be better for him to actually go screen right than going up. So that's why we gotta angle that body differently, and that would be huge for making that feel better. Hope that's insightful for you. And then moving forward through here, this is all pretty fast for me. Again, I think you can have exaggerated hang time through here. Really push that. He kind of goes in and out of that really quick, and I think you could milk it, hit this cool pose, milk the hang time, and then have us, because we're milking that hang time, we can really exaggerate the drop out of it and have us feel the acceleration there, so the swing has even more power. And then I would take this hang time and make this probably like 3 times as long as what you have, like really push that spacing so that he's hanging here, because he goes in and out of that so fast, and it's the same speed as like him coming down here, and the camera's fast and everything's fast. So it's really killing your weight and momentum, the sense of energy. The other thing that's happening, which is happening to pretty much everybody with a moving camera, is the camera is putting the brakes on your jump and screwing up your arc, just like it did in the beginning. So it's coming forward all through here, and then it goes backwards. And then, you know, it's like he's reversing where he used to be and going the other way. So you got to really tweak this for the camera view. All through here, you could probably have more hang time for this hit to add some extra weight. Again, the biggest thing is that camera getting in the way. He goes linear here and goes backwards again. So he's going straight down pretty much here, and then he goes backwards there. The overlap also, the spine seems to be working as one piece. It's very rigid. Hits a wall right there, and it sticks. So what I would probably do in this case is turn this into more of an S where the upper part is dragging behind. That's one way to do it anyway. And as he goes down here, this would be starting to drag back more, hitting its extreme that way, and this is starting to curl forward, but I'll just draw it like it's like that shape, right? And here again, this starts to get here first, it curls forward, and this is dragging, so we're getting that S, C, S, curl in, curl in overall, and then as you take off here, you probably would really drag that head back to be closer to where it used to be to make that less of a pop, and give proper overlap to that. The other thing that's happening here, I like that you're pushing the stretch, but I can tell the foot is not where it used to be. You make sure that foot is locked down. It's like sliding forward when it needs to be really pushing off from there, which also changes where your hip is because it's making this really big jump forward. And with the camera move, it's actually negating it where it's like just going straight up instead of across. So you're gonna really have to play with probably that camera move and your spacing of your character here to make that feel more natural. And if you're dragging the top of the spine here, you would keep dragging it through here, letting it start to arrive through these frames, because it's all dead through here. And with the camera move and his current spacing, he feels like he's going more screen right than he's going up. So his body is facing up now, and it just doesn't really match the momentum that it feels like he has in the camera space. So I'd expect the more the camera to be like following him up into this spin than what's going on. Really, the last note for me too is this this final pose. Final holding pose. The swing through could use some work from kind of like what we've already talked about. But this final pose, this twinning and this arm that we're showing this pose off, and this arm is covering his whole face. And this to me was a perfect opportunity for you to find like a really cool pose. And it tells me that you could probably spend a lot more time planning your animation up front, doing research for all the cool poses that are out there, especially for a character like Spider-Man, because there's all the movies and games out there and comics that tell you cool poses. You don't even have to think of them. And you could do a really quick Pinterest search for some of these things. You could do, you know, something like this top one there, where one hand's forward, the other one's down, and the legs are back. That would be much clearer and more dynamic than what you have without the twinning. Or you go with this classic where it's like, you know, the arm is down, he's pulling the web, and his body's forward with one arm back, and the legs are forward. So, you know, it would work well with what you have. You could just basically bring that arm down. So it's really pulling, and the body's curled forward. You know, maybe he's like looking up a little bit. The body's curled forward. You could have this leg out still. This one could be a little bit more bent. And then this arm is coming down, you know, pulling on that web. Let me back that up. It's making it ugly. Pulling on that web. And then this arm is hanging back. And that's way more dynamic, and you know, I just kind of stole that idea from that image, right? And we've seen it 1,000 times in all the movies. Another idea is you can just go with something even more dynamic and different than what you have. So you could have like the body's like curling in. Maybe this leg is kind of bent up like this. And then he's got his head looking where he's going. And you can have like this hand out and the cool Spider-Man fingers for the web, and you have like this hand back doing its thing, and this one, which is kind of this leg is further back, kind of hidden from us by the body. This one can be a little bit more stretched out, and that pose, you know, it just works a million times better than what you have there. So really think about your posing and think about showing the face of the character so we can always see him if you can help it. Because there's really no need not to go that way and make your animation look even better. So hope that's really helpful for you, ear fan, and let me know what you think. I'd love to see you apply some of these things into the next challenge, so I can't wait to see you, you know, in future animations and see what you do. All right, so Eugene here did this one, and this one is my favorite in terms of style. Eugene nailed the style here, Spider-Verse, and animating on twos and giving it that comic look and adding those thwips, and I like also the way that he styled the character rig too. I think that's really awesome. He's really cute looking. You know, he's got the big head. Almost looks like those collectibles. I can't think of what they're called, but those collectibles really got the really big head. The main challenge that you're running into here is similar to what we just saw with the last animation, is the camera is kind of getting in the way of your spacing, and it's screwing up those arcs and the spacing, so it's kind of killing your momentum in some of these jumps and twirls that you're doing, and the rest of it's like spine overlap, pops in the head, and a little bit of weight shift. So I'm going to go ahead and point that stuff out for you now, Eugene, which I think will be useful for everybody as well that ever does a Spider-Verse shot. So here, coming into this first landing, your head is like there. I'm just going to map that out real quick. And then you go here, and that's a really big spacing jump for that head. So it's jumping around like quite a lot. We like to keep our head stable if we can. Otherwise, it's very, you know, gives us a headache. So in this case, I would probably cushion that head back with some drag. You can let the upper body be somewhere like here, and then you're dragging that head back to really cushion from here. And this happens to you a few times through this. I noticed that the head feels a little bit poppy, so it's pretty much the same fix again and again. Is look at that spacing, see if you can get it closer so you get that ease in, ease out, and then it picks up speed through there. Right. Other note on this, hip spacing. That feels pretty even to me. Feels evenly split to go there. And the other interesting note is you only got like really 3 keys where you're really up in the air, and then you go back into the squash here, or you got your stretch and then there's the squash. So what I would do here is probably favor this guy a little closer towards the top of the arc to make it less even, give it more weight. And then this guy, I wouldn't have it cushion into this. I'd probably have this favor the top more to give it more weight so that you're easing out of this. And then you're giving more impact because you're accelerating down. And that would just mean you're gonna stretch that leg more, and you'll end up cushioning the head even more, which is good. Here again is one of those head pops that we were talking about in the beginning. You wanna drag that. Let me hide the ghosting real quick. So you've got like a curl, something like this through the spine where it's an S shape. And then here, this starts to take off, and I would really just drag that head back. Right? And you're doing pretty well with camera movement through here and his progress. From this point on, I think is where it starts to become a little bit of a struggle. So it's a little bit of a struggle here. There's a spacing jump going screen right there. I think that's got to do with the camera move. And then it just stops going screen right. You can see how it went linear, it went like straight down. So that arc has been killed. And then this movement through here, to me, it feels like he starts going screen left all of a sudden on this frame, and he kind of keeps going that way, which you do want a little bit of that. You don't want him to be so perfectly like straight. Like there is side to side, there's weight shift when we're doing stuff like this. So what I would do is make that more consistent. So he's always feeling like he's coming this way. And I would angle his body to match that, so there is a little bit of an angle to it as those hips are going that direction. So that means you're going to have a little bit of rotate Z in there. There's going to be a change from like maybe like more of that shape to this shape going over there. And you're going to have something like that. And then you go down into this, right? So you're going to have that overlap in there to make that feel smooth. Where right now it just kind of feels like a rigid block as it goes straight and then it moves left at the same time. Here is one of the most important sections for you to fix. So I just want to map out the hip arc here for you so you can see what I'm talking about. So just taking a second to map all that stuff. All right. So here is where the camera really is getting in your way. I don't feel him go screen left here, and you can see it in the ghosting that it's just straight down linear. And when he jumps, you go left here, but then you go straight up, or sorry, you go up here, and you actually go backwards. That's what happened. Yeah, you go up and to the left, and then you go backwards and go down, and then straight down with no arc. So you need to make constant progress screen left, and that will give us the arc, and it will give us the feeling that he's actually moving that direction. Right now it feels like he jumps and he stalls and he's just gonna fall. When you watch Spider-Verse, and you watch him jump through this, or any scene, even though they're animating on 2s and there's a moving camera, he's making constant progress screen left here, right? Camera's moving, he's on 2s. That spacing is very well controlled and contained. And then all through here and all these moves too, it's very like, he's gonna go screen right, so you see those hips always making screen right progress. So that's the thing you're fighting. It's a challenge, especially with doing it on 2s. But that's what's really bringing the movement down for you. So that would be a huge thing for you to tweak. The head also, you gotta be careful of how much you rotate, how quickly. So the head is, you know, angled like this, then down like that, and then it does this tilt right there, and then it goes up. Cushion into that a little bit more so he doesn't go rotate so much here and tilt so much, right? You want to ease out of this position and soften into that a little bit. And as far as the push off goes here, you could make this stronger by making this spacing bigger. So you can have the hip up higher, get more stretch there, right? That would make it more explosive. That's something I forgot to mention here in this moment. Like, it's cool that you're doing the multiples. You do this squash. And there's a really nice spacing gap here for acceleration. But these two are killing that acceleration. I would get rid of this frame so that you have a big jump here, and then maybe even favor this one a little bit higher so that these are getting closer together. And that would make your jump have more power. It's got that weird pause in that one. All right, moving forward through here. So here's one more spot where it's the same deal. I just want to point out for you so you see it real quick. So you got a big jump screen left, big acceleration, then it basically sticks in place, right? So you know what to do there. You gotta move that over, ease into that stuff, and ease out to shoot into you know, the next pose going up here. Cool multiple here, by the way. Do the same thing with those head arcs. You want to ease out of that. You can use the multiples to help you do it in one frame with basically 3 poses. So you can have that rotation change slowly through there. You know, so it's something more like that where it's really following that arc, that head's dragging behind. You also would want to, you know, make sure you're dragging that spine. So this is still curling in as this is starting to relax through here, right? And delete something like this, and then through here you might have all that stretch and it's curling back to that head there, right? Something along those lines would make it smoother. This is the section where the weight shift is messing you up. So if he's running on the wall, I would, you know, if he's running on the wall, he's got to be really close to that building at all times. Otherwise, gravity starts to pull him down and to the ground, you know, over here. So for him to feel like he's running on the wall, he's got to be close to this to keep those feet going, even though he is Spider-Man. And right now, what's happening with the hip makes me believe the opposite. It makes me feel like he's going to fall to the ground because he's moving away from the wall when this foot plants. I'd expect the opposite. I want that hip to be getting more over this foot as it plants because it's taking the weight. Right? So he's really should be making progress over here through there, and then maybe he starts to ease out a little bit because he's going to the other foot. He's jumping in the air here, and he's gonna land there. So it's okay if this one comes out a little bit, but you don't want it to be too far because again, he's got to keep his weight in, right? So and he does it one more time. So here you're coming across screen left, and this feels better. You see how he makes progress screen left, and you don't really go back the other way until the jump. That feels more believable. So you sort that weight shift out side to side, and that fixes something else for you. So you've got with the overlap here, you've got a wall smack because you can see how the shape of the spine pretty much stays the same and there's no drag on it for these moves. Once you have that side to side figured out, you know where the extreme is for the body to kind of follow those hips, drag, curl in, and then as it starts going the other way, they drag the other way. So it tells you where to put that drag. And then again, the camera is getting in your way in this particular pose. The head, if you look at the head, it kind of gives it away. It moves backwards here, and then it comes up and forwards, and then goes backwards again. So you're hitting walls going forward and going to the side. This is the second most important area for you to tweak. This push off. So this is cool. Let me use green since we got this massive yellow background. So you have this push off here, and then what's happening is the camera is killing that jump. So you can see you push off, you're going on the way up, and then you're suddenly coming down through here. And then after that, you're sticking in place, so you're like floating through these frames. And we lost all sense of weight, so I'm expecting this frame to be higher up. Expecting it to be up there. And you could even make this more explosive by pushing more powerful by pushing the hip up higher, stretching that leg more, maybe even going on the toe to really make us feel that stretch there. Okay. And same deal again. Sorry to keep bringing up the same old thing, but that's what's plaguing this shot. You got that lack of screen right movement here, and then all of a sudden it jumps screen right. There is also a little bit of spine stiffness here where the rotate Z is stopped. You got a curl here, and at some point it needs to go from dragging that way to coming across and going the opposite, right, for that swing. So we need some change through there. Might have something like that in the body. Dragging that head. And then as he comes down, there's a really big head pop right here. So I would make sure that the head is still dragging as this starts to come up so that you're closer to this. Feels right now, it feels pretty harsh. With this big a spacing and then no cushion coming out of it. It feels like he head-butted the roof of this building, right? And those are my big notes for you, Eugene. Hope that was helpful for you, and I hope it was helpful for everyone else as well. Eugene, let me know how it goes applying some of those notes or trying that out in the new shots, and I can't wait to see you applying some of what you learned here into your new shots. I hope you keep doing this challenge. Whew, that was a lot of animation notes to cover in one sitting and just kind of barrel through all those shots. but I hope you learned a lot from it, and I hope you appreciate it and that you apply it into the next animations that you do. If you really like these critiques and you wish you had something like this on a weekly basis and you had a mentor to help you through all these body mechanics struggles and everything that I'm kind of bringing up and showing in these critiques, I recommend you take a look at Augmented Animator. In this program, it's a class that you take. I work with all of my students for 3 months at a time at least. We have a class every week that goes for about 2 hours. Class sizes are super small. There are recordings. Everyone, including myself, gives feedback in the class, and I really customize the program around wherever you're at as an animator to help you grow as fast as possible. So all the exercises are custom tailored to what you want to work on and what you most need to work on so that you can get hired as quick as possible. If you're interested in that, you can check out more about Augmented Animator by going to rustyanimator.com/augmented. The next term starts in October, and we go every 3 months. So check it out. Join the waitlist if you're interested, and you'll be the first to know. Otherwise, there will always be the monthly animation challenge here for you to participate in. So feel free to jump into that as long as you want. To jump into the next one, if you don't already know, you can go to the facebook.com/groups/Rusty Animator. Join that group and you'll see all the details for the next monthly animation challenge, and I hope to see you there. The one we're working on right now is God of War, so it's really exciting. There's still time to jump in. And as always, until next time, happy animating. Take care.